Welcome to Growth Rocks Podcast, the podcast powered by Gen AI. I'm Mike, and today we're diving into a really hot topic that combines AI, data, and user interfaces, the evolution from simple Markdown tables to fully interactive MCP apps, and what that means for outcomes over answers.
Thanks, Mike. I'm Sarah, and I'm excited because this stuff is moving fast. We'll unpack why visualizing results matters, what MCP apps bring to the table, and how teams can start thinking in terms of usable outcomes rather than just raw answers.
Let's set the stage with the core idea. AI can fetch data, but the real value comes when that data is shaped into an interface that lets people act on it. That shift, from a paragraph or static table to an interactive app inside the chat, changes how decisions get made, right?
Exactly. And building on that, the article we're reflecting on emphasizes 3 levels of presentation: native Markdown, HTML representations, and MCP apps. Each has its place, but only MCP apps can offer live data interactions, state, and actions without leaving the conversation context.
Yes, and that's the heart of the yes, an approach we'll use here. So, to kick off, let's connect this to a practical flow. First, native Markdown tables are fast and lightweight, great for quick comparisons. Then, HTML gives more control over layout and interaction, and MCP apps wrap the data in a true interactive interface that can drill into details and trigger actions.
That's the 3-step ladder. And as Theo, our friend Theo Moulos, points out, the goal isn't to replace the earlier approaches, but to know when each makes sense. For short summaries, a Markdown table might be perfect. For a sophisticated report with filters and charts, HTML helps. And for live data with workflows, MCP apps shine.
Right, let's talk about the main value of MCP apps. The article describes a tool and UI contract. The tool provides data and a UI resource, and the host renders that inside a sandboxed iframe. This separation of concerns means the interface can evolve without changing the underlying data tool.
And the architecture matters because it supports graceful degradation. If a host can't render MCP apps, the tool's text and structured data still work. The enhanced interface is an optional experience, not a necessary dependency for the tool to function.
Exactly, and that leads to a practical takeaway. Design your MCP app with a solid textual fallback. That keeps the experience useful across hosts with different capabilities or restrictions.
Moving from architecture to process, the article also covers what it takes to implement an MCP app yourself. You need an MCP server, a UI resource registered as UI, chats, and a clear data contract that your UI can consume. It's not just about pretty visuals. It's about secure, role-based access and robust validation on the server.
Yes, and the security reminders are critical. Minimal permissions, no secrets in tool metadata, and explicit user confirmation for rights. It's a reminder that brilliant UI is meaningless if the backend isn't solid.
And there's a subtle but important point about distribution. A host may support MCP apps while still applying workspace or rollout restrictions. So, even if you have a great UI, you have to align with the host's policies before you plan broad distribution.
Now let's talk about the practical workflow for teams. A good starting point is identifying the data tool you already have, and then asking what UI resource would best help users act on the data. The UI resource UI, mine cares, is how you connect the interface to the tool, enabling the tool input and results to flow into the view.
Building on that, the article suggests starting with one tool and one UI resource, then expanding with a few controls like search, sort, filters, and pagination. It's a wise approach. Start small, prove the value, then layer in more interactivity.
That brings us to the design principle. The interface should preserve the conversation context while giving users direct manipulation. The MCP app handles navigation, drill downs, and actions, while the model handles reasoning and intent.
And what about the promise of portability? MCP apps are designed to be portable across compatible hosts, but the article cautions this isn't automatic interchangeability between every dataset and every interface. You need an explicit data contract, compatible schemas, and appropriate permissions.
So the guidance is to think about the data you have, the actions you want users to perform, and the policy and security requirements. If you can define those clearly, you can design an MCP app that works across supported hosts and still respects host constraints.
Exactly. And the practical examples matter too. A contact list in an MCP app could let you open a record, a chart could adjust its date range, and a dashboard could drill down into details. The magic is in the interaction. Filters, search, and actions that refresh or mutate data in real time.
On the topic of real-time, the post highlights how the UI resource works with JSON RPC over post message to communicate updates and tool calls. This keeps the interface responsive without exposing the host page to security risks.
That's a huge design win. It preserves the host's sandboxing while enabling a rich, interactive experience. For teams, this means you can build robust tools without compromising overall system integrity.
Let's switch to a practical application. What should a product team take away to start? First, map your data tools and define a slim, testable UI resource. Then connect them using UI, Chash, and Dach Meta UI, Resource URI, and test both plain results and enhanced results in parallel.
And remember to test for common states, loading, empty, partial data, and errors. A resilient MCP app must handle all of these gracefully, plus mobile layouts and accessibility considerations. Yes, and building in these states early avoids surprises later.
A second takeaway is to design for graceful degradation. If the MCP app can't render, users still get a clear text summary and structured data. That keeps the experience usable and reduces frustration.
A third takeaway is governance and testing. Authentication, authorization, and input validation must be thorough on the MCP server. Provide explicit prompts for write actions and ensure changes are verified before being enacted.
Also, think about public versus private deployment. Private testing may be straightforward, but if you want public distribution, you'll face reviewer requirements and policy checks. Theo has emphasized this nuance. Availability and distribution depend on the product surface and policy.
Now, a quick real-world vibe check. Suppose your team runs a CRM. The MCP app could render a live contact list with search and filters, and you could click to open a contact, update fields, or trigger actions like sending an email, all within the chat flow.
Exactly, and you could extend that with charts showing engagement trends or pipeline dashboards that drill down to individual leads. The interface becomes an active workspace rather than a static report.
One more practical note. Start by ensuring your data contract is explicit. What fields are passed to the UI? What inputs can the UI send back? Clear contracts prevent ambiguity and drift as you evolve the app.
And to tie it back to the bigger picture, the 3 levels framework is about choosing the right moment for the right tool. For quick reads, Markdown. For branded or structured exploration, HTML. For live, actionable data, MCP apps.
This is where the usable outcomes mindset really matters. The UI isn't just decoration. It's a bridge from data to decisions. And when done well, it makes AI-assisted work feel natural, fast, and trustworthy.
Before we wrap, let's distill 2 to 3 concrete actions listeners can take this week. Action 1. Inventory your current data tools and identify a single candidate for an MCP app UI resource. Action 2. Draft a minimal data contract and a UI scaffold that includes at least search and pagination. Action 3. Plan a test that compares the plain tool output with the MCP app-enhanced interface.
I love those. Action 4, though optional yet powerful. Design a graceful fallback path so if an MCP app can't render, users still see a clean summary and structured data. No dead ends.
And finally, as a closing thought, remember that the shift from answers to usable outcomes isn't about abandoning Markdown or HTML. It's about choosing the right tool for the right job and building interfaces that users can actually manipulate to get results.
The MCP Apps framework gives teams a clear path to richer, interactive experiences inside conversations, with strong separation of concerns, security, and graceful degradation. It's a forward-looking way to design AI-powered products.
To close, a quick recap. You can start with Markdown for speed, move to HTML for control, And then invest in a full MCP app when you need live data and actions. Build robust UI resources, connect via UI and Chaos, test thoroughly, and plan for both private testing and public distribution as appropriate.
That's the practical blueprint. And if you're pondering the broader vision, MCP apps are part of a larger evolution toward rendering the interface inside the conversation. So decisions are faster, more informed, and easier to execute.
Before we sign off, one more nod to Theo for inspiring this practical breakdown, and for reminding us that the UI is becoming the product in many AI-enabled workflows.
Absolutely, and that's a huge shift worth embracing. If you take one takeaway today, let it be the idea that usable outcomes, drill downs, actions, and live data are what make AI-powered insights truly valuable.
Thanks for tuning in to Growth Rocks Podcast. That's a wrap for today's episode. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep optimizing, and keep growing.